So let's go ahead and get started. Today's topic, as you can see, is managing PDFs like a pro. And this is a good one because obviously most offices are dealing with PDFs constantly. Some offices will allow other types of docs, but again, typically most of the offices will primarily be dealing with PDFs. So we're going to dive deeply into the different things that you can do, both in Pipeline and outside of Pipeline. So let me hop over to Pipeline. And like I said, we're going to talk about managing PDFs both inside of Pipeline and outside of Pipeline. So we're starting here on this transaction with several docs here. And first, we're going to start looking at different ways that you can manage or handle the PDFs, including how you navigate them, how you can manipulate them within Pipeline, etc. Okay, so to start off, let's talk about how you can easily navigate through the docs that you're looking at on a transaction, or you could be in another list like on your unassigned docs or your unreviewed docs, etc. But when you're looking at that list and previewing the docs, let's say I'm looking at this particular doc here, this large doc. Instead of, let's say I've looked at this, taken a look at this, and I want to look at the next one, instead of actually having to close that and then go to the next doc and look at it and expand it and then close that and then go to the next one, you can actually navigate between the docs using your keyboard. So let's say I'm looking at this doc, listing agreement, and I want to expand the next doc. I'll, on my keyboard, hold down my shift key and then my arrow, and it'll automatically advance to the next doc and expand it. And then if I do the same thing, shift and arrow down, it'll do the same thing. Okay, and I can go in the reverse direction. I can hold down my shift key and arrow up, and it'll navigate and expand the docs upwardly. Okay. All right, so that's the first thing. Also, when you're on docs, let me go back to this large doc, which is obviously an example here. Also, when you're looking or previewing a doc, you can navigate between the pages easily. I know you already know that you can arrow over and get to the different pages, or you can go to the last page or click this arrow to go to the first page. But you can also use the numbers on your keyboard. So if I type, let's say 8, it'll jump on my keyboard, it'll jump to page 8. Right? Or if I type page 3, it'll jump to page 3. I can also do double digits. So if I type page 18 or need to go to page 18, I can type 18, it'll jump to page 18. If I type 66, it goes to page 66 for me. Okay. So that makes it easy. Again, if you've got a long doc like this one, instead of having to arrow over to each page, I can just jump straight to that page. Also, over here, you've got the ability to change the size of the doc that you're viewing. Maybe for this particular doc, I really wanted to read it, and this is tiny, and my eyes are starting to age, so I could make that bigger, right? Or maybe I just wanted to see it small because I wanted to get an overview of the page. I can do that. Or medium size, or I can just have it fit to page, right? Then it'll naturally fit in the page no matter what doc I'm previewing. Okay, and the system will remember that setting, so when I advance to a different doc on this transaction, or even in a different transaction, I go look at a doc, it will retain that setting until I change it, right? Also on this page, I've got the ability, obviously, to open the original doc, and that'll open it in PDF Reader for me, or in Adobe, whatever I've got selected to my browser to open my PDFs in. It'll go ahead and open that doc in that program. So particularly good for fillable docs. If I need to go ahead and fill those, I would do that there, not within Pipeline. So if I need to fill a doc or otherwise manipulate it beyond what I can do in Pipeline, I would go ahead and open original doc there. Okay. And before we leave this screen here, if you need to view, open this doc in a separate window within Pipeline, you can click that little arrow or click it back in to bring it back to the original screen. Okay, and then obviously closing that. Okay, I'm going to come real quickly over here. Last thing here is you've got those shortcuts that I mentioned earlier about jumping to the previous doc and next doc. I'm sorry, these are for within the doc. These are your shortcuts for advancing through the page that I just mentioned. If you wanted to do your page numbers, you could do that. You can use your arrows over to go back and forth, and then shift arrow or left or right to go to the first or last page. and then escape to collapse your view. And they're right here under this question mark, so it makes it easy to, or you don't have to remember, you can just go refer to these if you ever need to refresh your memory. Okay. So that's manipulating the docs. They're within that preview, popping them out, etc. You've also got some additional options that you can do to PDFs over on the right here. So if I'm, let's say, on this large doc again, and I wanted to break it apart, I could do so. I won't go too much into breaking apart. That could be a separate webinar. But just to know that you can, if let's say you've scanned in a large doc of several documents and you want to break it apart once it's in the system, you would use that to do so. Also, if you want to extract a single page, like in this 106-page doc, maybe I wanted to pull out page 22 so I could send it to somebody. You can do that using your break apart, the break apart feature as well. And you can check out the webinar that we had on was it manipulating docs, I believe, that shows how to do that, or I'll always just ask us or check out our help documents to find that. But again, helpful for doing those things. For PDFs, you can rotate them right or left, right here within Pipeline. So those are a couple options you could do there. Contrary to breaking apart, you can also merge docs. So if I want to, let's say, merge a doc, and let's say I rename it this doc name. So I give it the name, specify the docs that I want to merge, and then say merge, right? I've also got the ability to rearrange those if I need to. So a practical example for when that could be used is, let's say I've uploaded a doc that's got 50 pages in it, and it's missing page 22, right? I can break that apart where the missing page is missing, upload page 22, and then merge the 3 docs back together to have that complete doc. All right. Okay, so that is another feature that you can do with PDF docs. And then lastly, over here on the left, if I hover over the little I next to a PDF doc, it'll give me more information about that, including what its original file name was, how many pages it's got, and its file size. Okay, you can't get the page count when it's not a PDF doc. All right. And that's kind of it for within Pipeline and manipulating the docs. Like I mentioned, right now we're on a transaction looking at this list of docs, but this goes for wherever you're seeing a list of docs in Pipeline, whether it's unassigned, unreviewed, etc. Okay, so that's it within Pipeline. Wanted to talk about a few areas outside of Pipeline. And let me start with first generating PDFs, right? A lot of times you're already working with a PDF that already exists. Some of your offices will actually create PDFs, and so you're probably already familiar with whatever software you use to go ahead and create those. But there are certain ways that you can create PDFs just generically, right? So let's say the 2 main ways are either from within a Microsoft product, like if you're in Microsoft Word, actually I should say 3 main ways. If you're in Microsoft Word or some similar application, when you go to save, you can save that document as a PDF. You'll have that option. Okay, so that's the first really simple way of doing so. The second way is using Google Chrome. Google Chrome allows you to print to PDF. So if I can print any document using the browser's standard print dialog, and I can say save to PDF as my destination for saving that document. And that will save my printout as a PDF. Okay, that's the second way. The third way is there are any number of tools that will allow you to convert a doc to PDF or even print to PDF in some cases. But so tons of tools out there that you can use for that. Generally, Chrome is so simple, it's kind of hard to not use that as an option, but again, there are others. And then the last way I wanted to mention is via Adobe. Okay, so talking about Adobe real quickly first. So when you open a PDF document, for example, when we were in Pipeline and we said, we clicked on it and said, open original doc, it's got to open it in a particular application. Most systems already have Adobe Acrobat on it, or you have installed it, so that when you're opening a PDF, it's probably opening it in Adobe Acrobat. Now there are two levels, actually there are 3 levels, but let's, for all intents and purposes, we'll talk about the 2 main levels. One is the reader, which allows you to open a PDF doc and do several basic things in it. And then there's Adobe Pro or Adobe Pro DC. And those Pro versions are more full versions that allow you a lot more functionality to be able to create and edit PDFs, etc. Right? So you've got the reader, and then you've got the full version that allows a lot more functionality. Again, reader is typically fine for most people. You can even do searches in them, etc., and do some manipulation. But if you wanted to really get Pro, then you would get the Pro version. So I wanted to differentiate that because to mention a couple things. Actually, I'm going to switch over my share so that Hollis can share his screen because he's got the Pro version, so we can see some fancy stuff there. Okay, so Hollis, if you don't mind opening an example PDF doc.
Sure. Here we go.
Excellent. And so first thing I wanted to mention is he's got the full Pro version, but you can do the searching that we're about to do in Acrobat as well, and the reader as well. So typically when you're opening a PDF doc, as long as it's not an image, and what Hollis is looking at right now is actually an image. It looks like it was scanned in. There is no recognition of the text, etc. So what we'll need to do, since he's in the Pro version, we'll need to convert that so that it's actually readable and editable as well. So he's going to go over to Edit PDF. And as soon as he says edit, the Pro version will convert the image, the text that is essentially an image because it was scanned in, it'll convert it to something that's readable and editable. So at this point, he can click it. You see how he's clicking these areas? He can delete them. He can actually even type in there and backspace over the characters or change the characters, even the handwritten characters, which is pretty crazy. I wouldn't recommend doing this for large scale changes, just because, again, it's not that seamless. It's a little bit clunky, but if you need to change a character or make a very minor change, you can do so, and it'll be reflected here. So kind of a cool thing to know about. So that's editing. You can also search, right? So if you're in the doc, you can do find, yep, and then maybe just search for mutual or something. Right? And so now, even though that was a text, a scanned in document that was essentially text to start, once you've edited it, you can go ahead and basically it treats it as text. And to kind of go full circle, originally I was talking about the reader version. When you're doing it in the reader version, if you've got a doc that isn't as much of an image, in other words, it's a typed doc that was converted to PDF, typically the reader will automatically do those searches for you. It won't allow you to edit because that's a pro version tool, but it should allow you generally to be able to search. The only time that the reader version won't allow you to search is if it's, again, a scanned in image or something like this, in which case you need to have the Pro version where you convert it, where it automatically converts it first. Okay. Other thing I wanted to show is if you go, let's go ahead and do create PDF. Yep, right there. The Pro version allows you to create PDFs several different ways. So this is kind of that fourth layer of how you can generate PDFs in addition to Microsoft and Chrome and the other tools. So you can create a PDF from all of these via all of these ways to the left: a single file, multiple files, etc. The ones that were of interest were doing it from a screenshot, which is pretty cool, right? You can do it from a web page, and you can even do it from your clipboard. Some of those are pretty achievable by doing the Chrome's version of print to PDF, but these are a little more flexible. So just FYI that these exist if you ever decide that you would like to pay for the paid version or this full version of Adobe Acrobat. And that's pretty much it for how to manipulate and kind of do the extra level of things for PDFs if you need to, both in pipeline and outside of pipeline.